Have you ever walked away from a moment with a man and felt the energy still lingering, as if something in the air stayed behind, like your presence had weight even after you were gone? That's not magic, it's psychology. And today we're unlocking the real reason why some women become unforgettable and others fade fast. It's not about beauty. It's not about texting strategies or wearing red lipstick or saying the perfect flirty line. What makes a man think about you when he's alone? What keeps him checking his phone, replaying the sound of your laugh, wondering why he can't get you out of his mind, is far deeper. It's something primal, something emotional. And once you understand it, you'll never chase love the same way again. In this video, I'm revealing what I call the lingering effect. It's the art of emotional imprinting. How to make your energy echo in his mind long after you're out of sight. It's not a game, it's not manipulation. It's about showing up in a way that makes a man feel something real, something that sticks. Because when a man feels you, he remembers you. And if you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever felt like men forget you too easily or move on too quickly, this is going to change everything. So buckle up, because what you're about to learn isn't surface level advice. It's the science of attraction meets the soul of connection. And once you master this, you won't just walk into his life, you'll stay in his mind. Let's begin. Most people assume that men are emotionally simple, that they only crave physical attraction, respect, or admiration. But beneath the surface, what men deeply crave is rarely talked about, even by them. It's something they don't always know how to articulate, and often don't even realize they're longing for until they feel it. And once they do, it's unforgettable. At the core, men crave emotional safety, not in the traditional sense of always being comforted or validated, but in the way a woman makes him feel about himself when he's around her. A man will obsess over the woman who makes him feel like more than what the world allows him to be. In a world where he's expected to always perform, provide, protect, and stay composed, what he secretly desires is to be seen, not just for his strengths, but for his fears, his softness, his uncertainty. He wants a place to rest emotionally. And a woman who offers that, without asking him to abandon his masculinity, becomes magnetic in his life. Men also crave to feel chosen, not just needed. They want to know that the woman they're with isn't settling, but sees them not just their status, their potential, or their lifestyle, but the soul underneath all of that. The version of them that's raw, unsure, human. When a woman can hold space for that version without judgment, she becomes irreplaceable. Beyond that, men deeply desire to feel desired emotionally, not just admired for their achievements, but emotionally wanted for who they are when they're vulnerable. A quiet kind of wanting, where they're accepted in silence, not just praised in performance. They want to feel like they can be weak and still be worthy. But very few environments and very few people give them that permission. So when they find it in a woman, when they feel emotionally naked and still respected, they remember her forever. Here's the truth that changes everything. A man can meet 100 attractive women, but if you're the one who touches that emotional nerve in him, who allows him to feel like he can drop the act and still be enough, he'll keep coming back in his mind. Because men aren't immune to emotional intimacy. They're starved for it. And they don't even realize it until someone finally gives it to them in a way that feels natural, not forced. This is why connection always trumps attention. You can be the most stunning woman in the room and still be forgotten. But if you can speak to a part of him no one else dares to touch, the scared part, the boy inside the man, the one who still questions his worth when the world isn't watching, that's the part that will keep reaching for you in the quiet. And here's the twist. Men don't crave these things in everyone. They only crave them in women who carry a unique balance of strength and softness. A woman who knows who she is, who doesn't bend to please, and who loves from a place of grounded self-worth. She doesn't offer comfort in exchange for closeness. She doesn't fix him. She invites him to rise into a more honest version of himself, simply by standing in her truth. That's what men truly want. Not a fantasy, not perfection, not a woman who needs him to be strong all the time, but a woman who understands that even the strongest men want to be held, understood, and deeply felt. A woman who knows the power of emotional presence and who uses that power not to control him, but to connect with him. When you learn to offer that energy, not everyone will be ready for it, but the right man will never forget it. because emotional safety isn't just rare, it's addictive. And once he feels it with you, it lingers. There's a reason why certain people stay on your mind, why their name lights up your phone and your heart skips a beat, even when you haven't seen them in weeks. That's not just chemistry, that's psychology. And when it comes to men, there's one thing that keeps you living in his head long after you've left the room. It's what I call the lingering effect. The lingering effect is the emotional residue you leave behind. It's not about the words you say or how perfect you look. It's about how he feels in the quiet moments after you're gone. Most women try to impress in the moment, but the women who create obsession, they know how to echo. They know how to say little, but leave a lot behind. This isn't about being mysterious or unavailable. It's about creating emotional contrast. Men become obsessed with women who interrupt their emotional patterns. In a world where conversations are surface level, distractions are constant, and most connections feel transactional, the woman who makes him feel deeply, even for just 5 minutes, becomes unforgettable. It's because he's not used to it. He doesn't even realize he's craving that emotional depth until he feels it from you. And when he does, he starts replaying it in his mind. That's where obsession starts. Not in his eyes, but in his emotional memory. What lingers isn't your beauty. It's the moment you said something that made him stop and think. It's the way you looked at him when he shared something vulnerable. It's the confidence you carried when you walked away instead of chasing. It's the ease you had in your energy, like you weren't trying to win him, you were simply being you. That's what sticks. Because emotional imprints happen when we disrupt someone's autopilot. The women who linger are the ones who understand subtlety. They don't overshare. They don't over-ask. They leave space for curiosity, for his imagination to work, for his feelings to unfold naturally. When you don't fill every silence, when you're comfortable leaving a conversation with a little mystery, it gives him the chance to come toward you. Not out of obligation, but out of desire. And desire is what builds obsession, not attention. Here's something few people realize. When you create a meaningful emotional moment and don't try to control what comes next, you allow a man to feel the impact of your presence. That's when he starts to wonder about you. That's when he replays what you said, rereads your messages, or reimagines that smile you gave him right before you said goodbye. Because obsession isn't built in the moment you're there, it's built in the absence that follows. And there's power in that. Because obsession isn't about chasing someone down. It's about making an emotional mark so strong that they chase the feeling of being around you again. The energy you carried, the peace you gave them, the way you saw them when no one else did. So if you want to become the woman he can't stop thinking about, don't try to impress him, impact him, leave him better than you found him, then walk away with your energy intact. Don't overstay, don't over-explain. Let the silence do the work. Because it's not about being everywhere, it's about being unforgettable where it counts. The lingering effect isn't about manipulation. It's about mastery. Mastering your presence, your energy, your boundaries. When you become a woman who can stand fully in her power without clinging to the outcome, you create space for obsession to bloom naturally. Because obsession isn't just about wanting someone, it's about feeling them long after they're gone. And when he feels you like that, he won't just think about you, he'll crave you. Attraction isn't random. It doesn't just happen out of nowhere. There are specific, real-life behaviors that spark it. Moments that quietly turn into emotional triggers. The kind that make a man's heart beat faster and his mind start imagining a future with you. These triggers aren't loud or overly obvious. They're subtle, real, and powerful. And when you know how to use them, you stop wondering whether a man likes you, because you start seeing him lean in before you even say a word. One of the most underrated attraction triggers is emotional contrast. This is when you show different dimensions of your personality in one interaction: softness and confidence, playfulness and depth, curiosity and calm. Why does this work? Because people remember variety. They're emotionally impacted when you surprise them without even trying. Imagine this. You're having a flirty, light conversation, and then suddenly you say something thoughtful or reflective that shows insight. That unexpected moment makes him pause. You just shifted the tone. That shift hooks him, because now you're not predictable, you're real. Another powerful trigger, genuine presence. So few people actually listen anymore. But when you look a man in the eyes, nod at the right moments, laugh fully when it's funny, and pause before responding, you're doing something rare. You're showing that you're there. And that presence makes a man feel like he matters. Most men are constantly performing at work, online, even on dates. But if he feels like he can drop the act around you, that moment becomes magnetic. That sets when he starts chasing your energy. Then there's value expression. Not bragging, not oversharing, but casually showing that your life is full, rich, and meaningful without him in it yet. Maybe you mention a book you're reading, a trip you planned with friends, or a personal goal you're excited about. These moments show that you're not sitting around waiting for a relationship to make your life complete. You stir living, and that energy of a woman in motion, fulfilled and evolving, is one of the sexiest things a man can witness. It communicates high self-worth without a single boastful word. It tells him, if you want to be in my world, you better bring something real to. And then there's the power of self-restraint. Holding back when others would overshare. Staying calm when others would react. Choosing not to explain yourself when you're misunderstood. These tiny choices communicate emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence is deeply attractive. It's rare, it's mature, and it tells a man, you don't need chaos to feel powerful. You are powerful because you have control of your emotions. Men feel safest with women like that, and safety, contrary to what most people think, doesn't kill attraction. It amplifies it. One of the biggest real-life triggers, though, is curiosity. When you show a man you're genuinely interested in what makes him him, not just what he does for work, but what drives him, what he secretly wants, what shaped his beliefs, you instantly stand out. Not because you're interrogating him, but because you're inviting him into a space where he feels seen. And here's the twist: when he feels seen by you, he starts wanting to see more of you. He becomes curious right back. And that's where real connection begins. Real attraction isn't about pretending to be perfect. It's about being emotionally intelligent, grounded, and present in a way that feels refreshing. When you trigger a man emotionally through presence, curiosity, contrast, and subtle confidence, he doesn't just think you're attractive, he feels it. It hits him deeper. And that's what lingers. Because at the end of the day, attraction isn't just about what's visible, it's about what's felt. Trigger the right feelings. And you don't just catch his eye, you capture his attention for good. Here's the hard truth. Obsession doesn't die because someone loses interest. It dies because you unknowingly smothered the very mystery that made you unforgettable. Mental obsession isn't created by presence alone. It's created by how someone feels when you're not around. And unfortunately, most women kill that feeling with a few common mistakes that seem harmless but are silently destructive. The first obsession killer is over-explaining yourself. When you feel the need to justify every decision, clarify every emotion, or over-text to fix misunderstandings, you think you're creating closeness, but you're actually stripping away intrigue. Obsession is rooted in curiosity. If he knows every thought in your head, there's nothing left to wonder about. And without wonder, there's no emotional grip. Then there's emotional over-availability. Yes, being warm and supportive is important, but when you're always emotionally available, always ready to respond instantly, or always putting his needs above your own, you stop being a challenge. And whether we like it or not, men crave a healthy level of challenge. Not games, but the kind of energy that says, I choose you, but I don't need you. That balance is magnetic. Overgiving, on the other hand, creates imbalance. It makes him feel like you're trying to earn him instead of mirror him. That's when the emotional scale tips and the attraction starts to fade. Another habit that kills obsession: trying to constantly prove your worth. Whether it's subtly showing him how busy you are, mentioning all the people who want you, or trying to demonstrate how high value you are by comparison, it creates pressure, not allure. Obsession isn't built by proving, it's built by being. The moment you start trying to win someone over, you shift from inspiring desire to begging for attention, and that shift is palpable. Next is a silent killer: controlling the outcome. When you're overly invested in where things are going, how he feels, or whether he's pulling away, you stop flowing and start grasping. That anxious energy becomes obvious. You may think you're hiding it, but energy doesn't lie, and men pick up on that emotional clinginess faster than you think. It doesn't feel sexy, it feels heavy. An obsession can't survive when someone feels emotionally suffocated. Let's talk about predictability. Doing the same thing over and over, texting at the same time, always saying yes, always reacting the same way, creates a routine. And while routine can be comforting in relationships, it doesn't spark obsession. Obsession needs a bit of unpredictability, a moment of pause, a change in tone, a shift in pace, something that makes him notice you again, as if he's seeing you in a new light. When you're too predictable, he may like you, but he won't crave you. Lastly, and maybe most importantly, neglecting your own life is a slow death to mental obsession. The less you pour into yourself, your goals, your friendships, your creativity, the more you start revolving around him. And the moment you orbit around him is the moment he stops being pulled toward you. People chase what feels like momentum. If you're standing still, he has nothing to chase. Obsession grows when he sees you moving forward, glowing, evolving, whether he's in the picture or not. The bottom line? If you want to live rent-free in a man's mind, you can't be too accessible, too eager, or too invested in managing how he feels. You have to become the kind of woman who knows her presence is powerful and doesn't force it on anyone. You have to let space do some of the work, because obsession is born in the spaces between your moments, not in the constant need to fill them. Be memorable, not manageable. That's how you linger. Deep desire isn't triggered by big dramatic gestures. It's not found in flashy looks or over-the-top declarations. In fact, the most powerful form of desire is activated in the smallest, subtlest moments, the kind most people overlook. These are the moves that slip under his radar, bypass his logic, and go straight to his emotions. If you want a man to feel that slow-burning, can't stop thinking about you kind of longing, you have to stop trying so hard and start mastering the art of subtle impact. One of the most magnetic subtle moves is simply owning silence. Most people rush to fill silence out of nervousness, but a woman who can sit in stillness, lock eyes, and let a moment breathe, she becomes unforgettable. That kind of presence says, "I'm not afraid of space." And men notice, because in that space, their mind starts to wander. Who is she? What is she thinking? Why isn't she trying to impress me? That mystery becomes mental glue. It keeps him leaning forward. Then there's light, intentional touch. Not clingy, not overt, just a brief hand on his arm during a laugh, a soft brush on his shoulder as you pass by, or even a subtle touch to his lower back when moving through a room. Those moments may seem small, but to the male nervous system, they light up like fireworks. Touch communicates safety, playfulness, and intimacy, all without a single word. But here's the key. It only works when it's rare. Don't overuse it. Desire builds in the absence of something, not the abundance of it. Another subtle trigger is eye contact with a slight delay. Don't just glance and look away. Let your eyes linger for an extra second or two. That moment when your gaze locks and holds is electric. You don't have to say anything. Just give him the chance to feel seen. Men are rarely looked at like that. And when they are, it leaves a deep impression. It creates intimacy without saying a word. It's soft, powerful, and lingers long after the moment has passed. A move most women overlook is selective vulnerability. Instead of dumping your life story or trying to appear flawless, offer him a glimpse into something real, but do it sparingly. For example, a short comment like, "I used to doubt myself a lot until I learned how to show up for myself differently," tells him more than a long-winded story ever could. It signals depth. It shows you've lived, grown, felt, and that creates emotional credibility. When you show that you've got layers without revealing them all at once, it invites him to come closer. Even your voice is a tool. Lowering your tone slightly when saying something meaningful, speaking a bit slower when asking a deep question, or softening your delivery during a compliment, these are all subtle shifts that bypass logic and go straight to the emotional core. You're not just saying words, you're creating an experience. And that experience is what he remembers. But maybe the most important subtle move is pulling back slightly after an emotionally charged moment. Let's say you had a great conversation, a moment of chemistry, a spark. Most people lean in harder, but the woman who gracefully steps back, who ends the conversation first, who walks away smiling, who leaves him with a taste but not the whole meal, that woman becomes the one he can't stop thinking about. Because she didn't try to hold the moment, she let it breathe. And that's what makes him crave the next one. Desire isn't created by doing the most. It's created by doing the right little things with intention. These moves don't scream, "Look at me." They whisper, "Remember me." And when done right, they plant seeds that grow in his mind until he finds himself wondering where you are and needing more of your energy. That's how deep desire begins. Not with a bang, but with a quiet, unforgettable ripple that never fully fades. Words are powerful, but the right words, spoken at the right moment, can live in a man's mind long after the moment has passed. They don't just sound sweet, they stick. They become mental echoes, looping in his thoughts when he least expects it. And it's not about being overly poetic or trying too hard to be memorable. It's about tapping into emotion, connection, and subtle mystery. The kind of phrases that don't demand attention, but command it. One of the most echoing phrases you can say is, "I don't need much, I just value presence." This hits a man in the chest. It tells him you're not chasing status, drama, or attention. You're chasing something rare. Presence, honesty, realness. And men don't hear this often. In a world where they're used to being measured by what they give, this phrase makes them wonder, would I be enough for her if I just showed up as me? That question lingers. Another powerful line is, "You have this energy that makes people feel safe, even when you don't realize it." That's not just a compliment. It's a deep emotional observation. It shows that you see beyond the surface. And most men never get seen like that. When you acknowledge something about who he is, rather than what he does, it creates emotional intimacy. He'll remember it in quiet moments, especially when he doubts himself. And he'll associate that grounding feeling with you. Try saying something like, "I love how you make space for both silence and laughter. It's rare." This phrase is subtle but beautiful. It tells him you're not just drawn to the fun moments, but also the comfortable ones. You're someone who notices emotional maturity, and he'll want to live up to that reflection. It's a compliment and a mirror, all in one. Then there's this gem. "You remind me of calm, like the kind you don't even realize you've been missing until you feel it again." Say that to a man after a quiet moment together, and just watch what it does. It's poetic, yes, but grounded. It sticks because it doesn't try to sound clever. It sounds true. Men remember how you made them feel, and that line wraps feeling in words. Another powerful phrase is, "You don't have to do anything. I just like being around your energy." This triggers deep emotional safety. It removes pressure. It tells him he doesn't have to perform to earn your interest, that he's enough just as he is. In a world that constantly demands men prove themselves, that simple sentence can echo like a soft song in his memory. And don't underestimate the impact of something as simple as, "You have no idea how rare you are." It's just 7 words, but it creates a powerful pause. If you say it sincerely, maybe after he shares something vulnerable or when he least expects it, it lands in his soul. And it echoes not because it flatters his ego, but because it validates a deeper part of him he rarely shows. Finally, a phrase like, "Whatever you do next, I hope it feels like peace," can completely shift how he sees you. It's graceful, it's loving, and it says even if you're not chasing him, you're for him. That phrase lives on because it leaves no pressure, no expectation, just a memory of your emotional elegance. These phrases aren't about manipulation, they're about reflection. When you say something that resonates with who a man is beneath the surface, he won't just remember what you said, he'll remember how it made him feel. And those feelings, they're what keep you lingering in his mind long after you're gone. A high-value woman doesn't walk into a room and demand attention. She attracts it. Not with volume, not with flash, but with an energy that quietly says, "I know who I am and I don't need to prove it to anyone." Her presence is felt before she speaks and remembered long after she leaves. This kind of presence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. And once you understand the formula, you don't chase connection, you become the connection. The first part of this presence is emotional self-containment. A high-value woman isn't constantly reacting to everything around her. She doesn't need to overshare, over-explain, or fill every silence with nervous chatter. She knows that stillness is a strength. When you can be at peace in your own body, when your energy isn't seeking approval but simply being, it's magnetic. It draws people in, not because you're trying, but because you're grounded. That groundedness feels like safety to everyone who encounters you, especially to a man who lives in a world that rarely offers him emotional peace. The second piece is subtle unpredictability. Not in a manipulative way, but in a layered way. A high-value woman has different dimensions. She's warm, but not overly available. She's playful, but not always predictable. She's kind, but with clear boundaries. The contrast is captivating. When someone thinks they have you figured out, and then they see a new side, a deeper insight, a flash of sass, a moment of quiet depth, it keeps them mentally engaged. This unpredictability creates emotional texture, and texture is what keeps people coming back. The third part is non-verbal communication. Your presence isn't just what you say, it's how you carry yourself. It's the way you walk into a space without shrinking. The way your eye contact lingers just long enough to spark curiosity. The way your smile doesn't beg, it invites. A high-value woman moves like she belongs in every room she enters, not because she thinks she's better, but because she's not seeking permission to exist. The third part is non-verbal communication. Your presence isn't just what you say, it's how you carry yourself. It's the way you walk into a space without shrinking. The way your eye contact lingers just long enough to spark curiosity. The way your smile doesn't beg, it invites. A high-value woman moves like she belongs in every room she enters, not because she thinks she's better, but because she's not seeking permission to exist. That kind of confidence, even in silence, is unforgettable. Next is intentional energy. This means you don't just show up everywhere, you're selective with your time, your company, your focus. When you make someone feel chosen, not because you need them, but because you want them, it elevates their experience of you. And this isn't just about romance. Even in friendships or business, people feel when you're not desperate for attention, but are instead offering it intentionally. That's the difference between being impressive and being magnetic. Another powerful piece of the presence formula: passion. Not for a person, for your own life. When you speak about your goals, your projects, your purpose, your hobbies, your face lights up. That glow makes you unforgettable, because desire is most potent when it's rooted in you, not in someone else's validation. A woman who has something she's building, something she's excited about, something that lights her up from the inside, that woman becomes the muse, the mystery, the one they can't stop thinking about. And finally, softness. True high-value presence isn't all power. It's also warmth. You don't need to be hard to be respected. You just need to be self-honoring. Softness with standards. Kindness with clarity. That balance creates a presence that doesn't shout. It shifts the energy in the room. People lean in. They listen more closely. They remember more deeply. Because you weren't trying to get their attention. You were simply being yourself. The formula is simple, but not always easy. Stay grounded, stay intentional, stay lit up from the inside, and let your energy do the talking. You don't need to perform to be seen. You just need to be present in your power. That's the kind of presence that lingers. That's the presence of a high-value woman. Becoming unforgettable isn't about being louder, prettier, or constantly available. It's about how you make someone feel. It's about creating moments that linger long after you've walked away. And the truth is, when you carry yourself with calm confidence, when your words are intentional and your energy is aligned, you leave an imprint that no one else can replicate. Men don't obsess over women who beg for attention. They become mentally consumed by the ones who are fully themselves. The women who know their worth, who express softness without sacrificing strength, who give space without losing connection. That balance is rare, and rarity is magnetic. If you've ever wondered why some women are remembered after one date, one conversation, even one glance, it's not because they did the most. It's because they were themselves in the most present, powerful way. They didn't force it. They flowed. They didn't over-explain. They let silence speak. And they didn't chase. They drew in. So here's your takeaway. You don't have to compete to be unforgettable. You just have to align. Align with your truth. Align with your peace. Align with your quiet power. When you do, you shift from trying to be chosen to being the one worth remembering. You've now got the emotional tools, the phrases, the psychology, and the presence formula to create that effect. Use them with intention. Let them sink in. And most importantly, trust that when you own your energy, the right person won't just notice you, they won't be able to forget you. That's the real secret. And now it's yours.